BattleBit Remastered gets a lot of things right, but one of the things it gets really right is sniping. There's something just ever so satisfying about cracking those headshots in this game, but like BattleBit as a whole, there's a lot more than meets the eye when it comes to making the most of your long-range shenanigans. G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're going to talk everything sniping in BattleBit Remastered. So folks, I don't think I can stress just how lucrative sniping can be in BattleBit Remastered if you get good at it. Given the amount of people that are in a single match, if you end up in a good position and also have a solid aim under your belt, you can really go on some serious farms here. Now of course, there are some things that cannot be taught through a 10-ish minute long video. One of those things of course is just pure mechanical aim. That is something that is going to come with practice over time. I just can't magically wave some kind of wand and gift you the ability of crack shooting that you see on all those dope montages out there. It takes time, sometimes a lot of it, but there are some things that can be taught, and I wanted to go through all of those here today. And as I started to write out the script for this video, I sort of found myself wondering where I was going to start here, because there's so much to consider, right? But I think there's one key important tip that we need to discuss first off here, that being what scopes you should be using in BattleBit Remastered. It's pretty well understood now by the community that any scope listed under the medium range category does not give off a scope glint in BattleBit Remastered. And I just cannot begin to understate how important that is to your survivability. Scope glints are a dead giveaway to your position in BattleBit Remastered, and the majority of snipers that are out there are going to be looking for a scope glint as a dead giveaway to your position. So with that in mind, the best tip that I can give to you when you are getting into sniping is to ditch the long range optic as soon as you can. For the majority of ranges that you'll be engaging at in this game, anywhere between sort of the 100 to 400 meter mark, maybe 500-ish meters, medium range scopes do a great job at keeping your profile low and also giving you a clear enough target picture to score kills with. It may take some time to get used to, but man, it affords so much to your survivability, and you'll be thanking yourself later for putting in the hard work and getting used to those medium ranged optics. Now, that's not to say there's no reason to use a long range scope in BattleBit at all. At the risk of oversimplifying things a bit here, I think as it currently stands, there are two real prevalent ways to snipe in BattleBit. You have your run-of-the-mill snipers that sort of sit anywhere between 100 to 500 meters away from targets, you know, somewhat in the thick of it, but not all the way out to the back of the map, which is, as we said before, where your medium range scopes are truly at their best. And then, well, you have the quote-unquote real sniping, you know, hitting the shots from kilometers away at a time. And this is where the long-range optics obviously provide the scope markings and the clarity to do this kind of sniping very, very well. But beyond your scope choice, there's some tools and mechanics that are going to do a lot to help you in maximizing your efficiency when sniping at those extreme distances. The first thing we need to talk about here is, of course, ranging your scope, also commonly known as zeroing your scope. Typically, in most first-person shooter games where bullets have drop over distance, you'll often be required to compensate for that bullet drop by aiming a little higher above the target. I'm assuming that we've all been there and done that in some sort of capacity. Well, in BattleBit, you can actually range your scope so that the middle of the crosshair is set to be accurate for a certain kind of distance. Now, this is done by using the page up and page down keys on the keyboard by default, and I believe that all rifles in the game will range up from 0 to 50 meters, and then 100 meters, and then 100 meter increments after that until they hit their maximum zeroing distance. I personally recommend rebinding your zeroing adjustments to your mouse scroll wheel, as I find it far more convenient for making fast moment-to-moment zeroing adjustments as I need to, but that is of course a suggestion and not a law. Do as you are comfortable with. But to take a moment to give a visual explanation as to how this all works, here we are in the firing range, and I'm firing at a target that's 150 meters away. We can see that I don't really need to compensate too much for the bullet drop because it's relatively close for a sniper rifle, and snipers in BattleBit tend to have some pretty good muzzle velocities behind them as default. But as we stretch that distance out to 500 meters, we can see that my round is starting to drop below the target's head over time when I aim directly at their head. It's no longer scoring those headshots that we were experiencing at the 150 meter range. Now, of course, we could aim slightly up to compensate for the drop over distance, but if we go ahead and zero our scope to 500 meters, we're now hitting the headshot consistently while still aiming directly at the head with the center of the scope. There's no guesswork in how high you should be aiming, just range, point, and shoot. To really illustrate this in effect, let's do this on a 1000 meter target. You can really get a visual idea at this range of the round firing at a heightened arc in order to make its journey after you zero it for a certain range. And it's a tool that's incredibly powerful as you find yourself engaging at further distances. You do have to be very careful with this feature though. If you overrange a target and get it wrong, then your round is just going to fly straight on over the top of them. So it's always a good practice in my opinion to re-range your scope for 0 meters as you move between positions and between engagement ranges, just in case you catch yourself in a fight as you move between positions. In that case, you'll always know how much you need to re-range your scope for if you do have to, and if not, then you'll have the confidence in knowing that your round isn't going to fly over the target's head and get you killed. Now, further to that, combine this mechanic with the rangefinder attachment, which will give you an accurate reading on the range to target with wherever your crosshair is pointed. With the right amount of practice, you can have yourself quickly snapping between all different types of targets at all different kinds of ranges with 100% accuracy. And mastering this mechanic while using the rangefinder attachment really lets you stretch the engagement distance out and kinda, be a proper long-range kilometer-plus sniper. And let me tell you, I've seen some pretty nutty shots so far with these optics. Now, obviously, the further you extend the distance out, the more scope sway you're going to see yourself dealing with, which is not a fun time, truth be told. Another thing you can do to further improve your stability at these longer ranges of sniping is by equipping a bipod to your weapon here, which, as we have come to expect from many games over the years, whenever you deploy the bipod on a surface, your scope sway will be reduced to a near zero and allows you to really focus on landing those shots with good crosshair placement. Now, as good as that prospect may seem, the bipod in BattleBit Remastered actually comes with some significant skeletons in the closet that make your weapons worse in other ways. For example, you'll be hit with a much slower aiming down sights time and mobility speed, reducing your ability to reactively engage targets if you're caught out with your pants down. If you also see a scope glint looking at you from a distance, by the time you actually get your scope to your eyes and using your bipod, there's a good chance there's a bullet already airborne and coming your way from the enemy. On top of that, the bipod drastically increases your weapon's first shot multiplier, which ergo drastically lowers the rate in which you can take follow-up shots on targets due to how much more the weapon climbs, especially when your bipod is not actually activated. In all honesty, the bipod is only ever an attachment on any sniper rifle you should consider taking if you're planning on sniping at extremely extended distances where you need that extra stability. Beyond that, it's just going to be more of a hindrance above all else. Just keep that in mind. On the topic of attachments, just quickly here as well, keep an eye on any bolt attachments that you get in due time. Eventually, you will unlock a bolt attachment that will allow you to engage the bolt action of your sniper rifle both automatically without needing to, click the left mouse button again to manually rechamber a round, and eventually you'll also be able to rechamber a round while aiming down sights, which goes a long way to improving your efficiency and your ability to chain kills here. So yeah, once you get some of those core mechanics down pat, you'll really start to understand which scope you should be using and when based on your playstyle and how you should be approaching your sniping endeavors. As we said before, sniping can be one of the most lucrative ways to make XP in BattleBit if you've got a good aim. You'll never be short on targets to engage, and sometimes you'll just ascend into that state of total bliss as you move into that perfect rhythm, just chaining kills. And that goes doubly so if you find a good flank. Sure, you may be a sniper who's sitting back a little bit, picking away at targets at what appears to be a safe distance, but taking the time to flank as a sniper can often be the best decision for you when it comes to taking it to the next level. As people are continuing to learn the maps of BattleBit and work out where the battle lines are being drawn in a particular game, they're also going to use that information to work out where the most likely spots are for snipers to be lurking and do their thing, which means that if you sit in those predictable positions, the enemies are going to work their best to try and deny you those angles. So the best thing that you can do is take your time to work around those angles. Abuse the angles that enemies haven't got cover from, and just simply don't expect a sniper to be sitting in. I promise you, taking your time to get those angles sorted and find those flanks will print you a lot more kills in the long run. However, in saying that, don't get too cocky on your travels. If you're on a bit of a hot streak and you're chaining kills like nobody's business, someone is going to get sick of your shit eventually and try to clue on to where you're firing from. And spoiler alert, even if you're rocking a medium range scope, they are most certainly going to find you if you sit in one spot for far too long. Keeping your enemies guessing by moving when you start to feel the heat will go a long way in prolonging your success as a sniper. It'll also mean that you'll spend less time getting into tedious sniper v sniper battles who have worked out your position, and you can go back to bullying the little ants that are down below trying to heal each other. On top of that, it's also really worth taking note of the silhouette that you'll be casting on yourself in your position. Are you standing on the top of a mountain against clear blue sky, or are you camouflaged up against a cliff face or in a bush, something like that? These are great positional considerations that you can make while sniping to really ensure that you stay undetected for a longer period of time, especially when you're running those medium range optics. Now, looping back for a second here, obviously target prioritization is a big thing to consider here as well. Now, don't get me wrong. Bullying the same old medics over and over again that keep rotating revives out in the open field from your position is some of the most sadistic fun that you can have in this game, but the biggest threats to you are definitely the fellow snipers out there. So don't get too tunnel-visioned in your scope, and always take a moment to assess the landscape and see if a challenger is entering the game. Also remember that while BattleBit Remastered is a game of endless flanking opportunities for yourself, it is for your enemies as well. Always make sure to keep an ear out for footsteps even if you're out in the open in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. Getting caught up in your ignorant bliss may see someone sneaking up on you at your worst time. And that's something that I'm sure none of us want when we're on a hot streak. But folks, with all that said, that's kind of all the tips I had for today when it comes to getting good at sniping in BattleBit Remastered. Obviously, the biggest tip that anyone can give when it comes to sniping is just to aim better, forehead. But obviously, there's not much value in saying that in a video, and I really wanted to focus on the other mechanics and elements of sniping in BattleBit that will really help you to improve your positioning and your mechanical game while you're still working on that aim. But folks, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to backhand the like button and get subscribed to the channel if you've made it this far. It does go a long way to support the videos, and the majority of you right now are not subscribed, so let's change that. We're getting very close to 50,000 subscribers, and I'd really appreciate the support. Leave a comment down below if you've got any tips and tricks for sniping in BattleBit Remastered, and as always, check out my social media links down below, including our Twitch channel for more BattleBit content. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.